Japan's older population, 65 and older, hits record high to 36.4 million or 29.1% of population, the highest among 201 countries and regions across the world.
Here's a summary of the article.
The estimated number of people aged 65 or older in Japan stood at a record high of 36.4 million as of Wednesday, an increase of 220,000 from a year before, the Internal Affairs Ministry said Sunday. Older men totaled 15.83 million, or 26% of the total male population. There were 20.57 million older women, or 32% of the female population. The figure is expected to rise to as high as 35.3% in 2040 when the so-called second baby boomer generation, or people born in the early 1970s, reaches the age of 65 or older, according to the National Institute of Population and Social Security Research. In 2020, the number of older adults with jobs hit a record high of 9.06 million, growing for the 17th straight year. They accounted for a record high of 13.6% of all people aged 15 or older with jobs and 25.1% of all elderly people. Of the total older workers, those in the wholesale and retail industry made up the largest group, at 1.28 million, followed by 1.06 million people working in the agriculture and forestry sector and 1.04 million people in the services industry.
This post received a score of 8,600, with an upvote ratio of 98%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Japan could be a very different country in 30 years.
At this rate, it will just be the same, but worse. The young politically and culturally crushed by the elderly population.
Politically, culturally, and economically.
What percentage of the voting population? I feel like once more than 50% of voters are retirees, it's going to be very difficult for politicians to not pander exclusively to the needs of retirees and completely forget about the future of the country.
That's already the case in Japan.
It's going to get a whole lot worse. By 2050, a staggering 40% of the population will be older than 65.
By that point, especially with rising life expectancy, retirement will probably be set to 70 at some point.
It's already 65, or even higher I think, here in Germany.
Japan and China are going to have a really rough 30-so years when it comes to the aging of their populations.
Most developed countries are going to have this issue.
The US will be aight.
Yeah, luckily the USA has a huge millennial population. Should keep our economy growing. But we are still heading the same direction. Just a 3 to 4 decade delay.
Millennials won't increase the population. It will be the immigrants.
No wonder there are more diapers made in Japan for the elderly than newborn babies.
Speaking of which, Japanese kids' diapers are truly superior.
Glorious Nippon diapers, folded over 1,000 times.
It's gonna be crazy when they really start dying off. Holy shit, have the elderly put any thought in what they're leaving behind for the younger generations? 'Cause in America they sure don't. And the low birth rate in Japan is not a good sign.
Greater than have the elderly put any thought in what they're leaving behind for the younger generations? Haha.
The elderly don't put any thought into the future beyond tax cuts and pension-saving policies. They know they're going to die soon, so why should they care about the after is the mentality that has fucked us over so hard.
In Japan at least the life expectancy is one of the highest in the world. If you're a 70-year-old Japanese person you could easily expect to live for another 20-plus years. I wouldn't call that dying soon at all. Regardless of how much longer they have to live, the selfishness and short-sightedness of the elderly has always been mind-boggling to me. But that's how many people are throughout their lives to begin with, so there's no real reason to expect people to have a change of heart en masse just because they get old.
Mix that with people not having young kids for a variety of reasons. Long working hours, for both men and women, cause of the long hours. People don't have time for relationships. Societal pressure to marry. There is a lot of pressure to marry right after college, and many just marry to satisfy the status quo, but aren't really in love. Societal pressure to maintain gender roles, so both are supposed to get good grades, go to college and get a job. Women are just supposed to drop out of their careers early to marry a guy and have a child, and leave behind all of that hard work. Now can they work and put their child in daycare? Well, long working hours is the reason they don't, and childcare spots are limited. Also, for men who want to become fathers, the pressure for them is to stay at work until the boss leaves, for no other reason than a meaningless tradition from the samurai days. So that means they never see their kids during the work week. Massive amounts of cheating. Love hotels do exist cause walls are paper thin in Japan. People live in multi-generational households, but also lots of cheating happens.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.